Thank you for joining us for Taking the Reins, and please show us some love, interact with us. We love to hear from you. So please click like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe so you can be first in line to see whenever all new content is posted. This morning we're joined by Grade 1 winning owner, Greg Bortz. Greg, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Vicky.
It's quite a nice title, that, isn't it?
Yeah, I did have it before, but not with Pump and Power back a few years ago. But this one is just a whole nother level. Yeah, so still actually floated in here.
Absolutely. I can imagine riding the wave.
Yeah,
by any
riding
chance.
big time, big time.
Greg, your ownership has always been your absolute love. Where did it start?
Well, the love of horse racing started, I mean, I think it's been a little overexposed at this point, but, you know, growing up close to what is now Hollywoodbets Gravel and sneaking into that racecourse as a young, very young man, that's when it started, listening to the commentary from my bedroom window on race days and always sort of dreaming of it. As I said on other interviews, it was the hope one day that I'd be able to afford to own a racehorse. Like that dream started when I was 9 years old.
And is it the sport? Is it the horse? Is it everything?
Sure. I mean, I don't ride, and Gina always laughs because when we lead in winners, you know, she's like hugging the horse, and I'm like this because I'm a little nervous, you know. So I'm not. But I absolutely love the animal, but I've never ridden, so I'm not a rider. Absolutely love the animal. It's the culmination of I think what really excites me about the horse is just this unknown. And every single person that gets involved in the horse dreams of a day that like we had on the weekend, because that dream exists for everybody, no matter what you bought, no matter what you own. It's that hope, it's the aspiration, it's the unknown, and it's the inability to control. Is
that your escape?
Yeah, I mean, I even think it's more than an escape. It's almost like a parallel universe. We absolutely love it because you get drawn into it, right? It doesn't matter what's going on at work or at home or this, that, and the other. For when you go and you walk into the parade ring, and then your horse is walking around, and you're playing the race forward in your head, and then you talk to the jockey and talking the tactics. I mean, it is a complete escape, but it's almost like a parallel life. I wish we could live in it forever, but unfortunately, 90 seconds later, you snap out of it and you get back to the real world. But yeah, it's an absolute escape. Well,
you're either joyous, end up in the winner's box, or you're humbled in the place boxes, or completely humbled back in the parade ring.
And you almost invariably are humbled, right? So and that is why wins are so special. You know, every once in a while you get the superstar that rolls off win after win after win, and we know that is very much the exception, not the rule. And I mean, and Oriental Charm is a case in point. I mean, had no expectation that he would win. He wins first time out. Then all of a sudden expectations are raised, and his next sort of 3 starts do not replicate the form that he showed on his very first race, you know. And so expectations get lowered, and then slowly but surely sort of bumble your way, and the next thing you know, a dream gets realized. It's the unpredictability of it all which makes it so special.
Before we get to that moment, because I'm sure you're going to keep on replaying it, but we're going to start with your real true love.
Colatonic.
Among Colatonic, and it's Pump and Power. Why was he? Look, let's just start off with saying, if you don't know, quite a lunatic of a horse. To be fair, if you look at a whole crowd of them, he'll be the one airborne.
Yeah, so there were a few things, obviously. Firstly, I chose him. It's not often that certainly not today. I get no say in it, right? Gina controls that process. But I chose him, and he turned out to be something special. I don't think he achieved anywhere close to his full potential because he was very, as you say, he was somewhat deranged. But it was the name. I thought the name was super cool. Obviously, it's Pump and Power, and then everybody uses the Afrikaans variation on the word pump, which made it sort of gave it a cool name. And there was just something about him, and he had a swagger, and we knew how much talent he had, as he showed on at the Johnson's Workwear Derby. When he won that day, when he won that Group 1. there was just something unique about it. And then also, as you know, at that sale, I made a call on Vercingetorix and bought a lot of Vercingetorix, and he was the first one who put his hand up, obviously Oriental Charm being the most recent one to do so. So quite, I don't know, it's quite rewarding.
How much pressure did you put Justin Staith under? Because there was a period, and I remember being at Hollywoodbets Durbanville, looking at this horse managing to wiggle out his bridle, and I was like, this, and you can see Justin, he loves a challenge, and he was like, now this is the challenge of a lifetime. Did you put him under pressure?
No, I mean, and in all seriousness, I never do. Like the one thing that I mean, I will give Justin gears all day long, and we have a group chat, and we have a go at each other all the time, but it's all with love. When it comes to training, the one thing I don't do, it's very important in life to know what you know and know what you don't know, and I know absolutely nothing. And like, you know, I'm just a delighted recipient of ownership. I don't claim to have any knowledge, so I never give any trainers, no matter who they are, direction or instructions and tell them where to run, what to run, how to do things. Justin's track record speaks for himself. He's a multiple champion trainer, year in and year out, and that's not by coincidence. He tends to get to the bottom of any problem horses that come away, and ultimately, if the horse doesn't get there, it's because the horse probably wasn't good enough, not because Justin didn't figure it out. So, but don't tell him I said that.
Too late. Greg, Oriental Charm, you touched on, you know, his form and leading up to the big race, and look, I think Brett's one of those people that he keeps his cool quite well, and I don't know how the conversations went, and that'll probably be the question, but he's so methodical, and he knows what he's doing, selects it, and he just comes in completely like a ninja in the night. Were the expectations there?
Well, as you quite rightly say, Brett doesn't hype anything.
Yeah.
He doesn't hype anything. There are some trainers that every horse is a superstar. Brett's not like that. There is a calmness and a quiet confidence behind what he does. And as Brett said to me, the thing to him that matters more than anything is preparation. And once you've done the preparation, then you can be confident. And so he didn't, at no point did he turn around to me and say, we're going to win the Hollywoodbets Durban July. But before the race, sort of in the days before the race, both him and James, and don't want to leave James out of this because they are absolutely coupled on the tote in this regard, turned around and said, our prep has been flawless, absolutely flawless. The path to getting in the race has been flawless. He has every single chance of winning. But still, a horse is 10-1, right?
Correct.
I've had the burden with the aforementioned pomp and power of having a Hollywoodbets Durban July favourite. It's not fun to have a favourite because you actually go to bed dreaming of it. In this one, I knew everything went flawlessly going into the race, looked at the quality of that field. I could make justifications for 60-70% of that field to win. Obviously, he was best wasted, drawn 11. If I could choose a draw, I would have chosen 6 or 7. So it wasn't too bad, but wasn't great. Like, you can make a justification why we had a chance, but I couldn't be overly confident at all, and I wasn't.
And I think also having a horse going to the front at that level, it takes a lot.
Man, that takes a lot. Now, I remember, and don't forget, I left South Africa in 94 and only came back in 2012. So I've missed out on all those, well, it wasn't Hollywoodbets Durban Julys, all those Julys and all their different machinations during that period of time. But the one that stuck out for me growing up was Debonair winning the July. And I think that was in 84, I would guess, somewhere around there, when you guys can check it, and Troy will probably do that. Troy's the king of the Google. I can
He's
see him
already
grabbing his phone.
downloading the
I think it was
race.
84, I would think, 83 or 84, or whatever it was. Debonair went to the front and won the whole way. And actually, she then went on to do the exact same in what was then the Gold Cup. I don't know what it was called, who the sponsor was, but won the Gold Cup 3 weeks later using the same front-running tactics. So it always, 84, so it always stuck out with me how, like, you had to be supremely, supremely, supremely talented to be a front runner to win at Hollywoodbets Gravel over 2,200, let alone 3,200. And that actually concerned me. It concerned me with, don't forget, with Pomp and Power as well, because he also liked to, you couldn't hold him, so you did, right? He was going to get to the front, and it was the same thing with Oriental Charm. So that, it did concern me. I was like, we were hoping that he wouldn't have to go to the front, right? There wasn't much pace inside of us, with the exception of Purple Pitcher. So if you notice with JP, and Brett joked about it with JP, he said, so you draw an 11. When you come out of your, when they jump, stick to your lane, right, and count to 5. And then he stopped. He said, count in Afrikaans, because he says, right, yes. Count in Afrikaans, and, right, and hold that until you get to 5, and then look up. And if Purple Pitcher has gone to the front, come across and follow. And if not, well, then you're going to need to go and get across, and so be it. Fast forward after the race, so and it all worked out according to plan. And Brett said to JP, so well done for counting. And JP said, I stopped at 1.
How funny.
In true JP style. So yeah, so we were hoping not to get to the lead, but as Brett had said and James had said, the prep was flawless. A very fit horse. They've obviously, the Crawfords have figured out a winning formula. As you know, the horse training on the half veld and coming down. We knew we had a fit horse. It's still, to me, it was a big ask. But JP, I think Mike de Kock said it on one of the Hollywoodbets Durban July's preview shows, and a few others have said it subsequently. That, I mean, with JP, we all know he's an outstanding jockey, but particularly good from the front. He has a reputation for that.
I think he's also he's very calm. Like when he's, I mean, if you put him under pressure, he'd probably just be exactly the same person who he is on a random sort of coffee meetup.
Yeah, if you put a heart rate monitor on JP, I mean, it registers 0. I mean, I've never, JP, he does, and often before a race, I say, what do you think about this one? Like, I'm getting excited, and it's just monotone. But that's what is actually his superpower.
Yeah.
Because before the race, I certainly was a bumbling idiot, right? Couldn't string a sentence together. JP was so calm and so relaxed, and I think the horse feeds off of that.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, and all the energy lines
right?
up.
I mean, as I say, I don't ride, but I get the sense that he's just, because he's so calm and still and quiet and poised and confident, I think that helps the horse settle and helps the horse do what it needs to do.
All I can imagine is you standing in the parade ring with Gino by your side, obviously also
a nervous wreck too.
Yeah, yes. And then you've got the calmest trainer and the calmest jockey, and you're like, I don't know what's going on, because the people who have their hands on the horse
exactly
are calm, and we're battling here.
It's actually irritating. I was like, I wanted us to be like, you know, like I think of a rugby test and people psyching up in the change rooms beforehand,
Correct.
Bashing their head on. That's how we felt. But Brett and JP and James are just sitting there calmly, and you know. Anyway,
Brilliant.
it was still a surreal moment.
And you said going through, now you're watching the race and it's unfolding, and as it's sort of chipping away and now they're getting closer to the line and you can hear all the horses are running on that can run on, how much doubt crept into you?
So we were watching the race. We were in the Durban view room. We were standing at our table, which was sort of close to the window, and they jump out, and I'm sort of, it's as if I've got the walkie-talkie speaking to JP in my head. Okay, count to 5, JP. And then I'm having an argument with myself. I bet you he's not counting, right?
Which is true.
But he held, and then he okay. So then he wound up getting to the lead, but he did it absolutely perfectly. And I'm like saying to myself, okay, slow it down, ride your race. And then it kept, okay, go on. And then and obviously, and now I've seen the race 50 times subsequently, but at the time, all I was doing was watching Oriental Charm. So I didn't actually pay attention to who was where. I was just watching JP ride his race on Oriental Charm. The horse was doing it very easily, very comfortably, just calmly, you know. And then I saw horses moving up. I didn't realize it was Flagman at the time. It was all a blur. And then obviously it was Cousin Casey coming up the inside. Like, wow, okay. And then when I saw Flagman coming up, although I didn't appreciate it was Flagman, like at that point I figured, okay, there's a horse moving really well. We're about to get beat. Okay, maybe we can get third. And then he just kept on going. And I was like, oh my, like then I started screaming. I started screaming, probably swearing. It was but still thinking that we we're going to get beat. And then Cousin Casey started flying up from on the inside, and Flagman was on the outside, and then Royal Victory was there. And then only when we got to the last 50, I was like, oh my God, this is going to happen. And then just went absolutely mad. Go JP, go JP, go JP. And the second he hit the line, I just burst out crying. And I was like an absolute wreck.
It's insane. Does it almost feel like, you're saying it's like a parallel universe, does it almost, like, I always describe it as like an intangible magic that just like completely sweeps you up?
Vix, but it's indescribable. Like I can't even, that feeling, I get goosebumps when I think about it. I mean, I've almost cried every night since, like, you know, just on YouTube, just watching the replay over and over and over again. It's can't describe it. But I tell you, so you know, then it's interesting. It's like that's the pinnacle. That is, you know, Africa's greatest race. Am I done? Oh no, no. It's a drug. Now you got to find the next one, because it is just too great a feeling. You got to search for that again.
I think also growing up, I grew up in Northern Natal, but yeah, the one horse racing event, I believe growing up, that was the only event that happened the whole year. I had no idea.
Yep.
And everyone sat in front of the TV, and it was a religion of the day. The difficult thing, Greg, and this might just change where we're going with this, but when the generation that's growing up now doesn't have the same access to the experience that we had as children in relation to horse racing. And this is quite a challenge, because, I mean, for us it was just so obvious, because everyone spoke about it, was part of everyone's life.
Yeah. How
do we get the youth of today to enjoy it as we did?
Well, you're quite right. That is the biggest challenge that we have, and it's actually the reason why racing has had a downward trajectory. And the reason for it is suddenly there are competing sources of entertainment that are quick, easy, instant, and at your fingertips. Certainly in my youth growing up, like, it was that big event. There wasn't, as we all know, there weren't phones, there weren't computers, there wasn't the internet, there weren't all these things. This was the source of entertainment, and thus you would have these big storied events, because that's where your entertainment came from these big events. And in time, you now could have your big events on a daily basis on your phone in your bedroom, right? So it's changed the whole dynamic. And then when you add into the betting side of the equation, the fact that you can bet from home, you don't have to go on course and what have you, all these things have contributed towards racing doing this. So how do we get the youth and the next generation to enjoy it? Well, I have to say, you know, just massive props to Hollywoodbets and the Gold Circle team for what they did in promoting this year's Hollywoodbets Durban July. We saw the attendance on course, which was phenomenal. And what needs to happen is that we just got to stay relevant. They've just got to continue to find ways to innovate, to get this into the consciousness of the youth. And now there's different ways through TikTok and social media and all those other avenues, and the things that Hollywoodbets does so well. I mean, you get off a plane in Cape Town, you see Hollywoodbets Durban July. You get off a plane in Johannesburg, you see Hollywood. You know, they were doing those things to everybody was aware of it. And I have to tell you this much. This is what absolutely shocked me more than anything, right? Win the race, okay? Since then, my phone has been inundated with calls and WhatsApps and emails in some cases from people all over the world. But people that I haven't spoken to, either I don't know, or people that I've known who I at school with and what have you, that are living all over the world. For whatever reason, the Hollywoodbets Durban July has shown up as a news event somewhere. And I don't think that reach exists with any of our other horse races in this country. It is what's unique. And that is so, having experienced that, I know it's relevant. So I know we have an absolute chance. What I'd love to figure out how to do is how do we get that, capture that in a bottle and spread that energy across all our other races, certainly here in the Cape. You know, Durban is unique because the local population, the local community is passionate about horse racing. It's absolutely passionate, you know, and I'm sure we have sleeping giants here in the Cape and in Joburg and what have you, but Durban, it's everywhere. I mean, the hotel where I stayed at, every server at breakfast was talking about the horses and who do they like and checking in, and everybody, that spirit was there. So I think through smart marketing, through commitment similar to that shown by the Hollywoodbets team and the Gold Circle team, I believe that we can make the sport relevant again. We just got to keep innovating.
Greg, you mentioned all the communication. Have you reached the point where you are Insta famous? Because I can imagine if your phone's blowing up, social media wise, I mean, it must be insane because, like you said, it's such a huge event. Everyone follows it.
Social media is interesting. When took over Cape Racing a few years back, and then there was a lot of social media and lots of comments and what have you, and I took it upon myself to respond to each and every person wherever I could. There were positive comments I needed to thank. There were negative comments that I needed to address, and then there was I gave a speech at one of the awards dinners, and we spoke about integrity in racing, and that led to a whole social media furor, and I went and I responded to each and every person. And it just got to a point where practically I didn't have the bandwidth to do so. So I took myself off social media. So I have been off social media for 18 months, 2 years. I don't know what the exact time period is. I still have my accounts, but I never go on. And if people have sent me messages there, either comments or messages, I don't get to see them. I have my phone. People can WhatsApp. I respond to everybody where I can. It's a little overwhelming. So I don't know. Gina's on social media. I'm not on social media. I leave it to Gina, and my kids are on and what have you. And every now and then someone will take a screenshot and say, did you see what this one said? And I don't want to see. I don't want to know because I'm not on, so I can't respond. So if I am Insta famous or not, I honestly wouldn't know. So I don't know. And it's actually been quite refreshing being able to put the head down, and you work here, you see what's going on here. We're busy. We've got a lot going on, both in racing and around racing, for the purpose of supporting racing. There just isn't a spare minute in any day, you know.
Well, you're trying to change our racing world. It does take time and focus.
It takes a lot. I mean, the key is, it's actually a cause that I'm passionate about. I mean, personally, I've gotten so much joy out of it, so I don't want it ever to go away, number one. Number two, what I didn't realize coming in, I had no idea. I had no idea how many people are in essence employed either directly or indirectly through horse racing. The obvious ones, walk around this building, who works at Cape Racing. You've got all the trainers, you've got all the grooms, you've got the farriers, you've got the transport companies, you've got the breeders, you've got their grooms, the feed, on and on and on. It is such a network. We can't afford to, I mean, just in this country where unemployment, you know, coming back from America where unemployment at the time was sitting at 2% or 3%, and you come here and you're at 50%. And then you know that actually horse racing, despite being in such a bad place financially, is such a key employer in this country. It's like we actually have an obligation to make this thing succeed. We actually cannot fail. So that takes up all the time. So for that reason, I cannot afford the luxury of going on Instagram or what have you.
Support systems, and who is your support team, and were they there with you on Saturday?
Yes, my support team is quite obvious. Obviously, it's Gina, and it's my daughter Alexa, who you know, she's now working at Cape Racing together with her partner Julian. They came back from Miami, so like for me, you know, when your kids leave, it's like this empty nest syndrome is real, and it's too terrible. Alexa coming back and Julian coming back and working within the business and being able to see them has been remarkable. To actually go and share that Hollywoodbets Durban July win with Gina, with Alexa, with Julian. Like, I can't imagine if they didn't come back, or if I wasn't dating Gina and I won the Hollywoodbets Durban July on my own, it would be remarkable. But to do it with the people you love with you at the time, at your side, is just unbelievable. It made it even more special. It really did.
Do you think it's because they're almost your true north, because they support you without any gain?
Yeah, definitely, and yes, and then also they also understand what's important to me, right? So their happiness comes not just from being able to participate in Gina as an owner, the horse winning for their own joy. It's knowing my joy and the achieving of a dream, and that made it so special for them. And the fact that it was special for them and they were emotional made me. And it was a cycle of tears. It's still going on.
It's very special.
Yeah.
I think you've always included your children. I remember when they were much younger, they always came racing with you.
Yeah.
And to have that moment, it's like that. I mean, Alexa, you weren't here, and there was a winner, her and Gina, Alexa and Gina led in the winner. Alexa's like, I'll stand behind the pillar. I said, your time is coming.
Yeah, you got to step forward.
You can't be here and not get caught by this feeling.
So she's got her first horse, which she's named Sunshine Superman.
Oh, cute.
That's with Justin, that we bought on a recent sale that we own together, with Gina and myself and Alexa. So the bug has bitten. And the thing is, I have to tell you, so I've been passionate about racing. Obviously, my youth went to America and completely lost track of racing. It just wasn't a thing once I was too busy, and South Africa was far away, and I couldn't get into it in America. And but then came back and the bug bit again. And my kids were now with me in South Africa, but they weren't really with me on that journey, right? It wasn't their passion, as you said. What do they know about racing? This was, they weren't part of it. And then they've all left. All went back to America, and now with Alexa coming back and her being here and being part of it, she said to me after, she said, I didn't get it before, but I get it now. I absolutely get it. It's just a combination of everything. It's the unexpected. So you can't have expectations because you have no control over it. And then it's the highs, and then you got this magnificent animal that is the actual hero. And then you got people like the trainers that are trying to train this horse, and you've got jockeys that control the horse, and then you've got grooms that care for the horse. It's like this ecosystem is just phenomenal. It's right. It's electric. So that's the reason why once the bug bits, it cannot unbite.
Yeah.
But that's the whole key, is to get that bug to bite with folks.
The interesting, I interviewed years ago, an owner, and I said to him, oh, you must be so excited you've had this one. He said, Vicky, I haven't had a win in 30 years. And when you look at someone, you think, that's great. And he's like, it doesn't matter, because I knew the day would come. And like you say, it's that constant unknown. And even though you don't want to get expectations too high, you'll be disappointed. And when you have to march to the front in that second box and you look at it and you think, oh, that would have felt good.
But and the best part about it is, because of the unknown, you wind up, you have a maiden winner. You lead in that maiden winner. I've always said a maiden winner is as important as a Hollywoodbets Durban July winner. Having won the Hollywoodbets, it isn't.
Now you can say these things.
No, but I can tell you I was wrong, because that's on a whole nother level. But when you win a maiden, you start playing it forward. Okay, I got one here. This one's going to win the Hollywoodbets Durban July. You know what I'm saying? So it keeps that excitement builds, and and you always feel like, that old saying, if you've got a ticket, you got a chance,
Absolutely.
And that's how you feel, and that's what's so exciting, because you know what the pinnacle is, and every horse represents an opportunity to reach that pinnacle. Of course, 99.99% don't reach it, but it's that unknown, it's that hope that makes it so exciting.
Was this year's, you mentioned it with Pump and Power, he obviously had great success, but at that time you were having a lot more winners sort of all spread around. You seem to, have been featuring a bit more, but leading into this win, It had been quite tough for you.
Well, yes. Are all my trainers listening to this interview? I hope
We'll
so.
send it to them.
I hope so. Yeah, I mean, I think it does go in. It seems to go in spurts. You know, I've had lots of winners. I mean, close on 400 winners now. So I've had a fair amount of winners, and they do tend to come in clumps. I don't know why, right? Maybe a yard's on form, a yard's not on form, and what have you. I think at the moment, if you look at our string of horses, they are, as we've cycled sort of horses out and found homes for ones that were, you know, ready to go off into greener pastures. We actually have a fairly young, if you were to look at it, I mean, I would say 80% of our horses are 2 years old. Right, I'm saying it's a very young thing, and most haven't come out yet, and what have you. And so it was more some of the older horses, perhaps some of the less talented horses that were coming to the end of their career, as opposed to having a bunch of up-and-comers. And the reason for that was, I was planning on, as I think we've said in previous interviews, I was leaving. Before Cape Racing happened, or before COVID happened, I was setting up decided to get back into work and get back into private equity, and was going to raise a fund in America, built a house in Arizona, was going back to Arizona, and as part of that, started not replacing my stock of horses. So horses were sort of cycling out, and I never really had a base of horses because I didn't want to race from overseas because you couldn't get the enjoyment of it. Obviously, COVID hit, and we were all locked down in South Africa, and then this Cape Racing opportunity came along, and decided I didn't want to leave, and we're going to do Cape Racing. And at that point said, okay, well, now I'm time to re-engaging. So been replenishing the stock of horses, so to speak, and that's why it skews on the younger side. So that's my way of saying to you, our best days are ahead, they're not behind.
Well, I don't know, that Hollywoodbets Durban July win, that's going to linger a while.
That's going to linger. That's definitely going to linger. And in fact, Johan Malherbe sent me a link that I got on my phone for a podcast, an overseas podcast. Then on that overseas podcast, it was an hour long. They were talking about all UK racing and what have you. And they had a little segment on the Hollywoodbets Durban July, and they actually interviewed Vaughan Costa, right? And you know, Vaughan Costa of Shively Stud bred Oriental Charm. It was a great interview. I think it's the Nick Luck podcast, I think it's called. It was a great little segment. It was a great interview with Vaughan. And in that, Vaughan said, you know, this is a potential stallion in the making.
Sure.
And like, I didn't really think of it in that regard. Like that hadn't even made that leap, you know. So this one will linger for so many reasons, I think. I mean, imagine ultimately this horse could become a stallion. We know how difficult it is. You could be a top champion, like double superlative, who's won so much and
he's made a return.
And he's made a return. You know, it's not easy to become a stallion. But can you imagine if he maybe he can add some weight for age race like the Cape Town Met or what have you to his bow? Who knows? So maybe this Hollywoodbets Durban July will truly linger in perpetuity. And
then you can jump on what we're currently experiencing as the one world phenomenon. Imagine that's you.
Wow. I mean, one world phenomenal. What he's doing. Yeah. So, I mean, the idea of ever one day being able to own a stallion, we're not even going there in our head. But and I'll blame Vaughan because he gave that interview, so he planted that seed. But yeah, I don't ever want this feeling to go away. I don't ever want to forget how amazing it felt. And in fact, I want that to be the inspiration as to why every time we go to sale, we keep looking for our next Hollywoodbets Durban July winner, you know.
So everyone can live the dream and ride the wave.
Everyone can live the dream and ride the wave, yeah, exactly.
Well, great, congratulations.
Thank you.
I hope, like you said, it lingers forever, and also that you got to enjoy it with the people that are nearest and dearest to you. Greg, where does the ownership journey start with you? Because a lot of people find it differently. For example, Steph and Alida Steyn with their son Ruan, they study the catalogue like it's like it's a religion, and they walk through the stable yards and they select their own horses, which then builds to the sales day. Where does your journey start? Do you leave that to the trainers, or do you get very involved?
Yes, it's evolved over time. When I started, I went and chose horses, and I mean, I probably think I truly should get the award as being the worst bloodstock agent in the history of mankind. I don't think anybody has a worse track record than me. So I've learned my lesson. I would go to a sale, I would buy horses and then give horses to different trainers to train. And then whether or not they're doing a good job or a bad job, they'll just blame me that I gave them a bad horse. So I changed my philosophy on that. Trainers need to choose their own horses. So they can't blame, they got to take ownership. They chose the horse, they trained the horse. If it's not a success, it's completely their fault, right? So that's the key thing. So before a sale, often we get approached by trainers to say, you know, will you support me at this sale or whatever it may be. Obviously, my first thing is now immediate deflection. Do you have Gina's number? Contact Gina. That's the greatest thing ever. Just bat that one away. But the reality is, Gina decides who we're going to support and the extent to which we're going to support trainers. And basically, they come with their list of horses. Gina goes and looks at every one of them, decides which she likes or doesn't like, and thus we have a short list for them. We then determine a value with the trainer. So there's got to be a discipline involved. You can't say you like this horse. Anyone can like a horse if you have an unlimited budget, right? There's got to be, what do you think it's worth? And we put a limit on, and if it goes above, it goes above. The only sort of criteria that I impose is that I'm not looking to buy sprinters. I've always wanted to own the more classic type horses, to have the opportunity to experience the thrill that we had on the weekend that just passed. Like, that's where we want to be. We want to own the classic horses and compete in the classic races. That's my sort of only input. When I get to a sale, I don't necessarily, I'll get there and Gina will then show me, come look at these, and she'll show me the ones that her top picks. We rank them accordingly, and then we see where we come out.
Do you enjoy the bidding process on the sales floor?
Yeah, I love it.
I love that.
I absolutely love it. And in fact, you know, the auctioneer from New Zealand, Steve Davis, I was bidding on a horse once, I'll never forget it. Like, and there was a bit, you know, the auctioneers tend to speak to the bid spotters, as you know, like, that's your man, that's your man, Sia, yeah. That's your bid, so what have you. And we were bidding on a horse, and Steve Davis was talking to the one bid spotter. Every time I had the winning bid, he would turn to the other bid spotter who was with the competing bidder and go, hit him again, Chuck. Hit him again, Chuck. So we named the horse. I managed to prevail, and we called the horse Hit Him Again, Chuck.
Oh, brilliant.
Wasn't very good, but nonetheless.
It's a good story.
It's a good story. Yeah, I mean, that's the problem. I really shouldn't go to these auctions, because the competitive juices flow, and then you've come up with your whole strategy. This is what we like, and here's our price limit. And then once you're in the battle, the price limit goes out of the window. So I'm actually better off if I don't show up.
Well, then you're taking out one fun part of it.
Yeah, no, listen, it's one of my favorite days going to sell. Absolutely love it. It's great camaraderie. And it's funny how you got so many amazing horse people in a room, but people look at horses and have a totally different view. This one's not for me. I love this. But yet, champion trainer, look at something and see something different. It's kind of interesting, right, to see how people go about it. And then you think, well, why am I bidding on this and these geniuses are not? Like, what have they seen that we've missed, So the dynamic is crazy. Love it.
It's almost like the other level of the unknown. You're mentioning about racing, and it's unknown, and you can't really touch the result. You just got to leave it be, similar to then the sales ground, because you know what you want, but you don't know if it's going to, it's that whole build-up and excitement. Yeah,
and then you have something, oh, this one's got a bit of a sway back, and then a trainer says, I've trained a champion that had a sway back, it's not a big deal, and this one's leg is a little skew, not a big deal, I trained, and everyone says, oh, I won't touch it because it's got a skew leg. So different opinions, different dynamics. That's what makes this fascinating. And how on earth do you choose a champion?
I think they find you. That's what I was told. Champions find you. You can't find them.
No. The trainers find you. The trainers find you and say, please buy me a horse. It's the trainers that wind up doing it. I always say the horse chooses you. I mean, every horse that's ever chosen, what happens is I'll walk around the sales ground, and then you'll go and you'll see a nice horse, and it will like put its head down and will look at you a certain way. You think, I've got to own you, and it's absolutely useless. I don't subscribe to that theory that the good ones choose you. They just don't. Funny, all the bad ones choose me. No good one has ever chosen me. It's the good ones have been chosen by people far smarter than me. So
it's fun though.
It's absolutely great, and it's a big part of our future here in the Cape. As you know, as we're building our own, building up our sales company and building up our sales facilities, and soon at this magnificent property here at Hollywoodbets Kenilworth, hopefully we'll hold more sales, and the whole aim is to attract more people into it. And if they, that is why syndication, by the way, without going off topic, why syndication is so important is because as soon as somebody experiences the joy, the adrenaline that comes from being part of a racehorse, the owner of a racehorse, they won't go anywhere, and it's so important.
It's a very safe option in, if I can use it. It's a terrible way of describing it, but you almost know what you're in for, and I think that's what's maybe shied people away a lot before, is that they don't know what they're going to end up paying for. And so at least with syndication, it's exposed and it's there. So that's almost like you say, you can come in, small investment, all the joy. That's
key, and obviously it's a lot of work for syndicators, right? Because all of a sudden, it's one thing to deal with an owner of a horse. It's another thing to deal with 100 owners of a horse, right? And so it adds to the complexity of it. But the converse of that is somebody owns 1% of a horse and has 100% of the fun, and therefore it's exponential in terms of spreading the love. So I think it's for people that perhaps have a lower budget, for people that rather dip their toe in the water and just to understand what it's about. I think it's just the perfect way to enter the sport. Absolutely perfect way.
We can't see what lies ahead, both at Cape Racing and as well as with you. We hope you see many more winners in the winner's box, and hope that ride carries on going.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed that piece of what Greg Bortz experienced in the winner's box together with us, people nearest and dearest to him.